Hi, guys. I'm Erica, your homegirl, and today I'm here with Ron Sherwood of Solar Max. Ron, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, for everyone who doesn't know me, I'm Ron. I work for SolarMax, like she said. I've been doing solar for a couple of years now. Solar is an industry with a lot of misconceptions, so we both thought it would just be a good idea to tackle some of the questions with a video.
Definitely. All right. So, why don't we start off with how does solar work?
So, solar works with your home's current electrical system. There's five major parts to a solar system. There's solar panels and a solar inverter. And then the other three parts are things that every home already has. So you have your breaker box, your meter, and the power lines. So right now, without solar, rather, you would be receiving power from the power lines. Your meter would keep track of how much power you're using, and your breaker box is in charge of distributing the power in your home. Inside your breaker box, you have a main service breaker and some smaller breakers. The main service breaker would be receiving power from the power lines, and then the smaller breakers would distribute it to certain devices that use power in your home. The
Okay.
way that your solar system is wired into your main service breaker is the same way that the power lines are wired into your main service breaker. So
Oh, okay.
once you get solar, your main service panel has access to power from both sources.
Okay.
So your solar panels would be receiving UV light from the sun and turning it into direct current electricity. And then your inverter's job is to convert direct current electricity to alternating current electricity. Alternating current electricity is the type of power that we use in our home. I would get into like the difference between DC and AC, but it would be a
No,
long
it's okay.
video.
We'll just, yeah, not to worry. Just, let's keep it
So
simple here.
Long story short, AC power is just more efficient when power has to go move over a long distance.
Okay.
So your inverter's main job is just to scrub power and give your main service panel the type of electricity that it's already set up to receive.
Got it.
So once you get solar, during the day, your panels would be producing power and you would be feeding that power into your home through your main service panel. And
Okay.
any excess power that you didn't use during the day would go through your home and then back out onto the power lines, and your meter would
Okay.
keep track of how much power you produce.
Okay.
So during the day, with a good system design, you should be producing more power than you need so that when the sun sets, you can pull your power back in and you won't be charged for it.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
The system of producing power out onto the grid and pulling power back in is called interconnection. So, different utility companies have different interconnection processes. Some of them just give you one to one credit. So, if you produce power out onto the grid, they owe you the same amount of power back. And then
Okay.
other utility companies charge you different rates based on time of day. So
Right.
the utility companies that charge you different rates based on time of day basically do so to make a solar installation harder to do. They make it harder for you to
Oh,
zero out
okay.
your electric bill so
Got
that
it.
if your solar consultant is not privy to the exact interconnection rules of your utility
Hmm.
company, they could do an otherwise good system design, but the peak rate will still force you to pay the utility company some amount of money.
Got it. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
that's essentially how solar works.
Okay. Very cool. Okay. Now, why is now a good time to, look into this and get solar installed versus waiting for, when most of our bills are higher in the summer and
Yeah.
waiting till then?
Most people do wait until the summer. I mean, a solar guy's summer is not an actual summer. He's just working
Right.
7 days a week. Um, so that process of interconnection, it works on a daily basis, but also on a yearly basis. So in a
Okay.
daily sense, you would be producing more power than you need and pulling it back in. During winter, you would be producing more power than you need. And then when summer rolls around, you'll have some credits with your utility company so that you can start pulling power back in from the utility company to use things like your air conditioner. Most people use more power in the summer than they do in the winter, so they would really need
Right.
to save a lot of power during the winter in order to use it later in the summer. If you get solar now, you would have a couple of months before summer rolls around to save those credits and make sure that you have some credits to pull from by the time summer gets here.
So it's really smarter to do it now than waiting for the summer because
Yeah.
you're have better chance of being more efficient and saving actually money your first year.
So if you
Okay.
waited until summer, you would be using more power than your system was producing at the time, and you would end up paying the utility company for a summer. After that summer
Right.
was over, you would produce more power than you need so that the next summer rolls around, you have those credits to pull
You'd be
from.
okay. Hmm.
But if you get solar now, you'll just save slightly more money
Right.
and you wouldn't have to worry about paying for solar and the overage electric bill that you'll have from your utility
Got it. That makes sense. Okay. What incentives are there right now? I've heard of tax credits and
company.
such. What's going on right now with that?
So the federal investment tax credit just actually went down. It was 30%, and now it's 26%.
Oh,
Next year, it will go down again to 22%, and then it
oh,
will
okay.
phase completely out. So
Okay.
right now, solar is almost as subsidized as it ever has been. So it's a good time to go solar. If you wait too long, you'll just pay, 26% more for solar than someone who went solar now.
Yeah. Couple years. Okay. Okay, great. So, but there are still some incentives, so that's good. This is the
Yeah,
time to do it is now versus waiting because before you know it, there's going to be nothing left.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's kind of that theory of now is better than later. Like if you go solar now, you start saving money now, you get a nice tax credit. If you went
Yeah.
solar like 5 years ago, you would have gotten a higher tax credit and maybe a rebate from your utility company. So it's kind of like the longer you wait, the less money you're going to save.
Less incentives. Got it. Okay. What are financing options for solar panels or the
So
systems,
there,
I should say?
yeah, so there's three ways to go solar. There's a solar lease, a loan, and a cash purchase. So let's start with the cash purchase. The cash purchase is really simple. You pay cash for your system. Most systems cost around 30 grand, but that's completely
Okay.
dependent on how much power you're using and like the way that your roof faces. So if you
Okay.
paid $30,000 for a solar system, in most cases, if that system was correctly sized, 7.5 years worth of your electric bills would add up to $22,000. So with your tax credit that you're going to get from the federal government, your system would have paid for itself in something like 6.5 to 7 years.
Okay.
If you do a cash purchase, you want to stay in the home so that you can experience your return on investment. Most people who aren't going to stay in the home would be better suited to take like a solar loan where you
Mhm.
experience savings on day one and you just save money on a monthly basis versus your electric costs. Most solar loans are set up to where you pay payments amortized based on 74% of your solar system's cost, and then you take your 26% tax credit now that
Mhm.
the government's going to give you. You'd file for it from the IRS. And once you
Okay.
get your tax credit, you'd have the option to use it as a deferred down payment towards your loan. If you
Okay.
use it, then you keep the low payment amortization. If you
Mhm.
keep the tax credit for something else, then your
Mhm.
payment would go up. So
Okay.
I always explain it to my clients like this. The the government's giving you money to pay for solar. It's probably a good idea to use it to pay for
Use it for the
solar.
solar.
Yeah. If you decide to use it for something else, it should be for a very good reason. If you
Right.
were going to get a $9,000 tax credit and you decide to use it for something else, like I've had clients in the past use it to redo their kitchen. The only reason why I'd recommend that is if you were going to
Okay.
take out a loan that has a higher interest rate than
Mm,
the kitchen.
right.
So
Okay.
it makes sense sometimes to keep it,
Yeah.
but in
Right.
most cases, it makes more sense to use it to pay down your loan so that your monthly payment is cheaper than your electric
Yeah.
cost. A
Got it.
solar lease, a lease is for a very specific customer. A solar lease is for someone who has no tax liability. That's why it was created. So in the solar lease, it's very similar to the loan, but you don't get a tax credit. So
Oh, okay.
technically, the solar company would be listed as owner of your system, and the solar company would get your tax credit, and then they would charge you like a amortization based on 74%. But one thing to watch out for with leases, it's common that a lease doesn't have a fixed payment. So over the term of the lease, your payment would go up over time, most commonly by 2.9% per year.
Okay.
So if your payment goes up by 2.9% per year, the last half of your lease is going to be more expensive than the first half.
Right.
That can be beneficial for someone who has no tax liability, so they can't take on a tax credit and they're planning on
Right.
staying in the home for 25 years. Then it's just a cheaper payment than your electric
Okay.
cost. But for someone with buying power and a tax liability, it doesn't make much sense to do a lease.
Right. Okay. We're going to talk about the lease stuff a little bit more in a minute, but
Okay.
let's talk about okay, so now you've gotten your panels, you've figured out your financing. What's installation like? What should a homeowner expect? Is it, crazy full week of people on your roof and in and out of your house? Is it, how complex is the installation process?
So before installation, you go through like 2 months usually of permitting, and then once your
Oh, okay.
permit is approved, you'd get a call from your solar company, and they would schedule your installation date. On an average system size, installation only takes 1 day, and then they'll
Oh,
usually call the city to inspect it, and then have another day where someone comes out and like turns the system on.
okay.
In a larger system size, you could be looking at 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Every once in a while, someone will need to upgrade their main service panel. If you need to upgrade your main service panel is a breaker box for anyone who gets confused by that. If you need to upgrade your main service panel, you're looking at a completely separate permit and a separate construction
Right.
day for that.
Okay. For that. Got it. Okay. So, I mean, for an average home, it's about a day,
Yeah,
typically, roughly. Okay.
let's talk about how solar is installed.
Okay.
So most solar companies will use a racking system that's made for solar. And the
Okay.
racking system will utilize roof flashing that matches the overlapping pattern of your shingles. If you have a tile roof, then they use a special type of flashing depending on which type of roof tiles you have. But the roof flashing's main purpose is to waterproof your roof. And then the
Right.
racking system looks like rails and it's attached
Hmm.
to the roof flashing, and the panels are attached on the rails. If you ever needed to redo your roof after you go solar,
Hmm.
you wouldn't have to remove the racking system. You would just have to take the panels off of the racking system, re-roof around the roof flashing to maintain its
Oh, okay.
waterproof, and then they would put the panels back on the racking system. So it's not as invasive of a procedure as it seems.
Yeah, I would have thought you had to undo
Yeah,
everything and
just
then put it
take it
all back
all off.
together. So that's great to
Yeah.
know. Okay, awesome. So now you've got your solar panels on. What's maintenance like? Do I have to get up on the roof and wash my solar panels every week or,
Yeah.
you know,
In
dust
some
them off with the broom?
in some cases, you do like, if you live right next to the freeway and your home is dusty, you'll know that before you go solar, you know? And
Right.
after you go solar, if you get a good inverter type, you'll actually have monitoring capabilities where you can check on your system and make sure that's producing enough power. if you ever see that it's not, then you can, in a one-story house, you can just stand on the ground with a water hose. Um, on a two-story house, if you're not comfortable getting on your roof, I wouldn't be. I would just hire like a window cleaning company to come out and clean them every once in a while. In a normal case, you wouldn't need to clean them much at all. Most of my clients don't clean their solar panels. They just get a little bit dusty throughout the year, nothing that prohibits production. And then
Okay.
the couple days a year that it rains in California, the rain should knock down any dust.
Okay, awesome. So that's not difficult either. Great. Okay, people from all over the place are going to be seeing this, not just in California.
Yeah.
So, what should people look for? Even our friends who are here in California. If they don't call you, which hopefully they are going to call you, but if they don't call you, what should they look for in a solar company? To help them that these are good companies and that they're going to have good product and that they're going to be around when something
Yeah.
breaks or whatnot.
So something I always recommend doing is going on cslb.ca.gov, and similar to real estate, you can check anyone's license. So when you're thinking about going with a few companies, you should look at all of their licenses. That website will show you how long they've been in business and what licenses they actually have. A really good solar company will have a solar business license and an electrical license so that they don't have to subcontract the wiring of of your panels into your main service panel. Some other
Okay.
things to look out for. It's always good to like Google the address of the business, like get a
Okay.
business card and look at the address. That's a good indicator of how large the solar company is that you're dealing with.
Okay.
A lot of solar companies out there, especially in California, are just subcontractors. So they will only perform one or a few of the functions of a solar company, and then they'll subcontract the rest. The reason why I work for SolarMax is because we do everything in house. So
Okay.
I don't have to subcontract an installer, and then when my client has questions, I'm calling a completely separate company to get
Hmm.
the answer. I've worked for a company like that in the past and had bad experiences. So I've done an insane amount of research on companies in the industry and then came to the conclusion that SolarMax was one of the best ones. There's only a few solar companies in California that actually perform all functions that a solar company performs.
Oh, okay. Good to know. All right. So let's see. Do you think solar adds value?
Uh, that's a nuanced question. Um, it does. It does inherently add value, just by offering lower living expenses. So that's a value, right? If someone was moving into your house and it costed them less to live there, they might be able to afford like a higher mortgage payment, for example, if they had no electric bill. So there's a small amount of value in lower living expenses. Solar does add value to homes in an appraisal, but that's something that's subject to other factors of your home.
Yeah,
So
of course.
there's some areas in California where it's very hot and everyone who lives there uses a lot of electricity. You'll see these neighborhoods where every single person in the neighborhood has solar. If you live in that neighborhood and you're selling your home without solar, you'll just have a harder time selling it. So you basically want to make sure that your home wouldn't have a hard time selling otherwise, and if it wouldn't, then solar should add value to your home. But
Okay.
a lot of that is kind of subject to your realtor. I'm sure you know this firsthand that a talented realtor will get you more money for your home. So A talented realtor should be able to sell the benefits of having solar on your house as well.
Right. It definitely helps. Well, can help depending on where you're at, of course. But so someone is thinking about solar, they can contact you and you can come out and evaluate if solar makes sense for them or not, right? Because
Yeah.
it may not make sense for everybody, right? If somebody doesn't, or is it really beneficial for everyone?
It can be beneficial for anyone.
Okay.
How motivated you are to go solar plays a part here. If you're someone who cares about the environment, I mean, that can kind of outweigh savings in most cases.
True.
For anyone who uses more electricity than a $50 a month electric bill, solar will save you money monthly
Okay.
if you decide to go the loan route or a lease route, if a lease makes more sense for you. But I'll always be honest with anyone if solar doesn't make sense for them. I'm
Okay.
not really looking to convert everyone to pro solar, like super enthusiastic customer. I'm just looking to kind of help the people who want to go solar make a responsible decision and
Informed decision.
yeah, make an informed decision exactly. The decision that will save them the most money and protect the sellability of their home.
Right. That's great. So, one quick experience that I had is I had a buyer who was purchasing a home with solar panels, and I believe they were being leased. Well, the solar company was this like tiny little company, and the lender needed a certain amount of insurance backed by the solar company. Well, they didn't have that, and it was a huge dilemma for us. I mean, we ended up closing the deal, but it was a big hassle. I mean, it was a hassle even just to get a hold of this company because I think they were running out of a garage.
Ooh,
And yes, so that, that's why I'm kind of stressing, how people should look for the right company because there's a lot of people out there who are going to, try to swindle you and tell you it's going to be much cheaper with them, but you get what you pay for in the end, right?
yeah, exactly. The main thing that solar companies do is to cut their price is either getting rid of your warranties, like degrading your warranties, or they're giving you cheap equipment.
Okay.
Every solar company out there has a price match guarantee for a reason because they want to see what other quotes you're getting and what that quote actually is.
Okay.
Many times I've had my price be slightly higher than another company's price, and
Hmm.
then when I go to price match the quote, I look at the other quote and it's either a way smaller system size or they're using a Chinese inverter that's going to lose a bunch of the power that your panels produce. There's
Okay.
just a lot of variability in system design.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
always worth it to get a couple quotes, see what's out there, but really
Hmm.
you want to go solar with an expert that you can rely on,
Yeah.
not just a sales guy who's going to
Right.
promise you the world and then disappear.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, it's really about trusting the company that you go with and
Right.
really doing your research. In that
Definitely.
case, in that case, my idea of googling the address would have. I mean, if you Google the address and it's a house, probably not a
Right.
good
Not
idea.
the best. Yeah. Okay. Well, there was something else that came to my mind. Oh, yes. So if, you've installed it, let's say because it sounds like it's a little bit of a process with the permits and all that stuff. So it's not like you can get it done, tomorrow.
Mhm.
Now the summer, you got them installed, saved some money in the summer, everything's great. Now it rains once in Southern California, and all of a sudden you've got a leaky roof that you didn't have before,
Yeah.
and it's by the solar panels. Who would be liable for that, and who would, you know, how does that?
Yeah. I can take it from here. In our case, we have a leak penetration warranty. So
Okay.
any reputable solar company is going to stand behind their work. And if
Mhm.
they install solar and it leaks within, in most cases, 12 years, the solar company would be liable for
Oh,
that.
wow.
If a solar company installs solar wrong and it leaks, most times it's going to be because the roof flashing was installed wrong. So if
Right.
your roof flashing was installed wrong, it should leak within like a couple of rains. It should
Okay.
not take 12 years. So the
To
12
figure
year
that out.
warranty, yeah, the 12-year warranty is for peace of mind.
Got it. Oh, that's I think that's awesome. That would definitely give me some peace of mind. So, um, well, I definitely think that if you're in the market considering solar, I think you need to call Ron because he clearly is very knowledgeable. At least let him look at what you've got going on, let him compare and because obviously if I read some of these quotes, I'm not going to have an idea of if I'm comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges, right?
Yeah,
So,
you got
well,
to know what you're
thank you
looking
so
at.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
of
problem.
course. So yeah, reach out to me if you guys have any questions. I'll connect you with Ron. Do you have any last words for us, Ron?
Yeah, sure. If anyone wants to get a hold of me or find out some more information about solar, you can look me up on Instagram at Ron from SolarMax. And then if anyone wants an actual quote, um, hit up Erica. She'll give you my email. Emailing me an electric bill is the easiest way to get a quote done. If you guys want just a quote over the internet, I can do that. If you want me to come in your house and get way more into detail than we did in this video, I can do that as well.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Ron Sherwood with Solar Max. I'm Erica, your homegirl. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.